Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody is safe during this pandemic. It's not over yet, but it's looking better and better every day. My name is Ali Rezai, President and CEO of Shawlab Group, and I'm very happy today to be your host for today's webinar on Lucitone digitally printed dentures. We're going to introduce our panelists today in the next slide, but a little bit about Shawlab Group. We are a group of dental labs serving North America over 75 years now. We have fixed, removables, and ortho products. We have 5 locations in Brampton, Kingston, London, Ottawa, and Toronto. Next slide, please. So today, our speakers are gonna take us through the advantage and workflow of digitally printed dentures, the materials supplied by Dentsply Sirona, and we print them on our carbon printer. So about the speakers, Jeff is our denture department supervisor. He's been an R.D.T for about 10 years, graduated from George Brown College, very passionate about the industry, and we are very happy to have him. Fun fact about Jeff, he is a finalist at Panthera Master Cup this year, so he's basically one of the top 10 people that are basically competing internationally for creating a full mouth implant supported restoration. So no pressure, Jeff, bring home the cup. You're representing Canada, and Canada must win. And we also have Michelle, who graduated with honors from George Brown College as well. But Michelle is not an RDT, she's a certified dental assistant. So she has worked 5 years in a dental practice. She knows what's going on a daily basis. And then after that, she moved out and focused more on CAD/CAM, computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing, digital dentistry. And today she is the lab digital solution specialist with Dentsply Sirona. You will notice that she's very passionate about digital dentistry. She's also, fun fact about her, since she was 6 years old, she plays the violin and she plays electrical violin too. So without further ado, Jeff, over to you.
Thank you, Ali, for the introduction. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. I also want to thank Michelle and Dentsply Sirona for their support in this exciting new technology. So here's the course outline for today, and the topics we'll be talking about: why digital dentures. We'll be comparing the conventional denture with the digital, and then Michelle will talk about the materials that we use, so the teeth and the resin, and then we'll go through the indications for digital dentures. And as well, we'll look at the clinical and lab workflow. And then at the end, we'll have some time for question and answers. Okay, so why digital dentures? Well, digital dentures will reduce the number of appointments required for the patient to receive their final denture. And this is key, especially as we enter this new normal. Less appointments means less time the clinic has to screen a patient, disinfect the chair, and for the patient, it also means that it's one less trip they have to make to the clinic. So reduced appointments is a huge win for digital dentures. The traditional denture workflow requires usually about 5 appointments. You have your initial impression, you got your custom tray final impression, your occlusal rim bite block, bite registration, a try-in, and then the final insert. So that's about 5 appointments, whereas going digital, we can cut it down to 4, maybe even 3, without sacrificing aesthetics or the fit. So we get consistent results from the material and the workflow. And there's I would say there's 2 main parts to this point. So with 3D printing, we get a denture base that's printed to a resolution of 75 microns. So this carbon printer is pretty much top of the line in the market right now with the most accurate printing. And we get a solid base material, no porosity, If you compare it to regular PMMA, during processing, extreme temperature curing, and polymerization, there are chances that there's porosity, and even there's a chance that there could be an uneven mix of polymer and monomer, which also causes distortion. But with digitally printed, everything is machine manufactured, and we have less chance of human error and material error. So we definitely get consistent results. Easy duplications and replacements. So this is a big one too. With digital dentures, we have digital impressions, and we have the digital design of the denture, and we're able to print multiple final dentures at the same time and have them all ready for insert. And the patient can, purchase multiple dentures at a lower cost for their duplicates. And this is big because normally we would make a non-embarrassment denture and we sacrifice aesthetics to have a lower cost duplicate. But here with digitally printed, we can print multiple of the same vinyl, not sacrificing aesthetics. And for those patients who lose or break their denture, or even some cases where their dog eats their denture, they can easily call up the clinic and say, hey, I need a new denture. And the clinic will call us, we'll print a new one and assemble it and have it ready for insert at the next appointment. So we can bypass all those initial appointments of having to start from scratch with initial impression and bite blocks. Again, we can just have the final ready and a replacement ready for the patient. And another feature with replacements is that because we have the design, because we have the digital impression, if a patient decides later on, hey, A3 shade doesn't look that great, I want to try maybe A1, maybe larger teeth, we can just easily pull up the design, change out the teeth to a larger mold, replace it with a different shade, and have it ready without having to start from scratch or even take away the denture that they're currently wearing. And this new denture, try-in or final, will be ready for the next appointment. So with digital, we have the ability to duplicate and replace a denture without having to, again, go through all those initial appointments. Biocompatible materials, so no monomers. The base is resin-based, and there's no polymer or monomer. So those patients with monomer allergies, this is a great option for them, and they don't have to look elsewhere with other materials that might be comparable or might compromise strength or stability. And overall, with digital dentures, I would say that there is a greater patient satisfaction with the try-in. It's a different try-in, but I think the patients do feel that they're going to feel like their final denture when they put the try-in on. The fit is pretty precise. I would say it's bang on. And again, just that peace of mind for them to know that if they do lose their denture, they can easily get a replacement and not have to wait that 2-week turnaround. Yeah, so next slide, we'll have the digital and conventional comparison. So first we'll start with the try-in. So the try-ins come in a monoblock format, which means that it's just one solid piece of resin, and they come in white. And so if you compare this to the traditional try-ins, there's no wax at all. And this is pretty key because wax can get messy. Wax can distort, especially in extreme temperatures like we have here in Toronto, extreme cold, and now extreme heat, there is chances that the wax can distort. And sometimes when the patient bites too hard during the try-in, the teeth pop out, and we all know that's pretty annoying. So with the monoblock try-in, you don't have to deal with wax. You don't have to deal with anything falling apart or distorting. We get a full palatal seal. So this try-in is going to have the exact same base as the final denture. And because we're working with a digital or a virtual master model, we can engage every undercut that there is. So the patient's going to feel the full palatal seal. The denture try-in is not going to fall out of the patient's mouth, and they're going to be able to speak and just see what it feels like. So that they're going to have the feel of the final denture in this try-in stage. And we know that some cases, or most of our traditional cases, we have to block out the undercuts so that we can remove the try-in off the master model. And in some cases, the patient can lose confidence or get frustrated when the denture is always falling out and they can't see what their teeth look like or can't speak with it. So definitely with a monoblock try-in, you're going to get the full palatal seal. And this is a new option that you can offer, is that they can take home this try-in for a test drive. Now, this try material is not rated for eating full meals, but they can take it home and, you know, take a bite out of something. They can take some selfies or show their friends or have a phone conversation, really give this try-in a test drive. And it's great because for those patients who are having dentures for the first time, or they're unsure about the aesthetics or the setup or just the feel of it, they have a little bit more time to test it out and see if they like it and see what kind of changes they want. So this is definitely a big change and a big win for digital dentures. So if we look at some drawbacks, it is all white. There is no pink part to this, and at first the patient might see, oh, you know, what's wrong with my denture, but just let them know the final will have pink gingiva. The white resin does come in multiple shades, but we only stock A1 right now. We're only printing in A1. Maybe later down the road we will acquire different shades, but we're only printing in A1. And I guess the one advantage to the try-in being all white is the patient, if they take it home, they can't really decide just to end their treatment there and just live with the try-in because it's going to look weird. So it kind of forces them to come back and go through with the final. So they can't just walk home with the try-in and never come back. And lastly, for those doctors that like to do chair side resets, it's not available because, again, it's just one solid piece of resin. So this is the digital try-in. We'll take a look at the digital final. So this is one we made here. Again, there's no free monomer, so a great option for patients with allergies. No material distortions. So again, we're printing these denture bases straight from the digital impression. And we don't have to deal with material distortions that happen like in conventional dentures, where if you introduce a new material to your workflow, every time you introduce a new material, there is some form of distortion. So for traditional dentures, we go through about 5 different materials. We have your final impression, we have your stone, we have a base with wax, and then we invest it in stone and process it in acrylic. So we have 5 different materials that we go through, and each time there is some form of distortion, usually some kind of shrinkage. Usually it's not noticeable, but in some extreme cases, again, it could affect the fit of the final denture. And with digital, we have pretty much just two materials. You have your final impression and the final base, which greatly reduces any chance of material distortion. We have an unbreakable bond with teeth. So the bond with the teeth and this resin base, I would say, is just as strong, if not stronger than your traditional denture. And what's great about this is that the teeth come in a blister pack, and there's no wax. They're sealed in a blister pack. So, we only touch them when we're ready to do the final. So there's no contamination. There's nothing that will affect the bond of the teeth. Whereas in traditional dentures, the teeth come in a card with wax. Teeth are used in the wax try-in. So if the wax is not properly removed, it will affect the bond with the PMMA. So here with digital, the bond is pretty strong. And also the super strong Lucitone base material. So yeah, this base material is packed with technology. I'll let Michelle talk about that in the next few slides, but this is some pretty exciting stuff. And this Lucitone 3D resin is one of the few on the market that you can repair and reline. Now it has to be done at the lab, but it is an option to have. So if the denture does break, we can repair it. If it's an immediate, we can reline it or just get a new one. So the denture resin does not have the red fibers. We're not able to print red fibers. And that's the only difference you'll get with the final or the digital and conventional. So now I'll hand it over to Michelle. She'll take over and talk about the materials that are used.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeff. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Shaw Lab Group for putting on such an amazing webinar. Obviously, this is really exciting. I mean, Ali really did say it best. I'm very passionate about digital, especially where digital dentures are concerned. It is really very much a hot topic in our industry right now. And, you know, for a long while, you know, if you're looking at 3D printed dentures specifically, you know, there were some disadvantages to it. You know, when you were looking at the teeth, you know, printed teeth, they didn't have the same wear resistance. They didn't have the same, you know, aesthetics and warranties that, you know, you'd be used to with a traditional denture tooth. So I really think that Dentsply Sirona has, you know, really put your, you know, you and your patients kind of at the forefront of the thought process of, you know, a really solid solution for a digital printed denture. So I'm going to kind of share with you some of the insights about this material itself. So when we're looking at the digital teeth, right? So we have actually created a digital denture tooth that's specific to this digital workflow, okay? So we have a new IPN 3D IPN 3D tooth. And so the really beauty, you know, the beauty of this material itself is that it's going to be still that same IPN structure that you know and love from our traditional materials, like our portrait IPN teeth that you might be used to from just a traditional conventional denture. So the idea with this is that you're going to get the same aesthetics, you're going to get the same wear resistance, fracture resistance. So again, you're not compromising anything for your patient by, you know, implementing a digital strategy, right? And that really is the beauty of this kind of workflow, because the teeth really are, you know, specific to that of an IPN structure. It's just now a design specific to this digital workflow. So you're going to see on the left-hand side there, it's what's called a no grind design. So it almost has a concave look to it if you look at it from kind of the side profile of that tooth. And that's actually done specifically. So it also has kind of a simple plug and play assembly, it's called. So there's locators on kind of the back of the teeth and on the actual sockets of the denture base itself to actually be able to bond the teeth in place. So it's going to give a really good bonding strategy. So as you heard from Jeff, you know, the strength of this material is really phenomenal. And part of this comes from, you know, that really great design of this new IPN tooth to fit into the denture base itself. So if we look at the IPN 3D, which are portrait inspired, it's going to have the same unique shade patterns of a portrait IPN tooth. So you're going to have, you know, all the different aesthetic zones that you're used to from traditional denture teeth. So again, if you've ever seen 3D printed teeth, you're going to see that it was very one-toned, you know, that the teeth really didn't have a good wear resistance strength on it. And that's just simply because 3D printed teeth, it's hard to be able to get any kind of translucencies or layers into it. So it's kind of nice to be able to have, the enamel look, the body look, the incisal edge, and of course the gingival third of the tooth, right? So you're going to really be able to get that youthful aesthetic that you're looking from a denture tooth perspective. And again, just not compromising anything for your patient. It's available in all 16 A to D shades, as well as 2 bleach shades. So you're really going to be able to, sit with your patient and determine kind of what aesthetics they're going for from the kind of final look of their teeth from the shade perspective. And they're going to have really well-defined mamelons. So again, just really mimicking natural teeth as best as they can when they are, relying on a denture as a tooth replacement. So when we're looking at, the strategy that Shaw has put in place at their laboratory, the beauty of this workflow is that it virtually eliminates intaglio breakthrough. So what you're seeing on the left-hand side there, from a strategy like milling dentures, although milling can give you definitely a phenomenal solution still as well, when it comes to intaglio breakthrough and, you're relying on a mill to kind of grind out that neck of the tooth, what that can incorporate then is, a more compromised denture base. So when we, redesigned this IPN 3D tooth, we're virtually eliminating that from happening, right? With that no grind design method, on the back of those teeth, right? So that, the lab technician like Jeff is not going to have to spend time grinding, those teeth or anything like that to fit it in place to the socket itself. It's going to literally virtually eliminate that intaglio breakthrough. So again, we're not compromising anything for your patients, because at the end of the day, that's really why we do what we do, right? We do what we do for the patient in mind. So when it comes to the Lucitone digital print, one thing that Jeff was saying is that I was going to get into kind of more specifics of the material itself. And one of them is my favorite concept of it. But before I get started on that, on the left-hand side there, you're going to see accuracy right out of the bottle. So when Shaw is actually taking that material and putting it into their carbon printer, they're immediately getting accuracy right out of that specific bottle that they've printed, right? And what you're seeing on that, that color mapping is, again, just the accuracy at 0.1 millimeters, right? So really, really fine precision is actually in place for this. So that's kind of going along with what Jeff was saying from a try-in perspective and a base perspective, is that you're going to get a really seamless fit and a really good palatal seal, of course, with these printed materials. So in the center there, you're going to see superior strength with aesthetics. So it exceeds ISO high impact standards. So I'm going to get into that in just a moment here. But really, when you see our Lucitone digital print in action, it really is phenomenal what, the engineers of this material were really able to do. So what you're seeing there in the picture there is Lucitone digital print at 30 millimeters of deflect. It of course breaks, right? Because it's of course a breakable material at the end of the day, with that kind of force. But at 30 millimeters, it's a clean break in half. Now, if you see some of our competitors on the bottom of the screen at 5 millimeters of deflect, they didn't even make it to necessarily the 30 millimeters. It shatters almost like glass. So if you think about who your, demographic is for a denture, oftentimes it is those who are maybe a little bit more compromised from a dexterity perspective. Accidents can happen. And so, it is definitely possible that they could drop their denture when they're taking it in and out at night, or when they're cleaning it, it could fall into their sink. And obviously being porcelain, at 5 millimeters of deflect, if a material is just shattering, you're going to have a patient, coming back to you for a remake constantly. Right. So with the Lucitone digital print, you can kind of rest easy knowing that your patient is getting something as strong, if not stronger, than traditional Lucitone materials. And where that comes into play is if you look on the far right hand side there, it's BAM. So I'm known at Dentsply Sirona Canada now as the BAM Queen, and it's because this is by far my favorite concept about this material. So BAM stands for body activated material. So I'm going to dive deeper into what this means, but really kind of keep in the back of your mind about how BAM is kind of our secret weapon. It's how this material is actually stronger than our traditional Lucitone methods of conventional dentures, and it is because of this workflow with BAM. So when people ask me, is it unbreakable? Okay, so let's take a look at that. So I've got a fun little video here that I'm going to play for you. So here we've got a 26,000 pound truck, okay? And at Dentsply Sirona, if you've ever seen videos of even our traditional materials, we love running over our stuff with trucks. So we did the same thing, but we took it one step further. Instead of using a Ford F-150, we did a 26,000 pound truck. So you're going to see it running over a lower denture here with BAM in place, okay? So that body activated material. So the front wheel is going to run over this denture. And as it runs over, you're going to see that this denture is actually able to withstand that compression of the tire. And of course, the entire weight of the truck. So you're going to see there, it hasn't broken. Okay, so it successfully was able to withstand that type of force. Okay, so now it's going to do the same thing with the rear wheel. It's going to back over it. Same thing, you can see that the denture has not broken. So they're going to inspect it here. So you're going to see that, you know, no teeth have popped out. The base itself has, of course, withstood that type of force. So it hasn't broken or anything like that. So that's considered a success, of course. So now we're going to do the same thing with the upper denture, again, with BAM, that body activated material. And we're going to now run over it with the front wheel first. Now, as it's running over it, you're going to see there it broke. Okay. At the end of the day, dentures are not indestructible. Of course, at 26,000 pounds, it is possible that it can break. But however, this is considered a clean break right in half with no tooth pop-offs. So that's considered a repairable denture. And that's, again, Jeff was mentioning that we're one of the only materials on the market there that actually offers that reline and repair. And so again, you're not compromising anything for your patient by simply going digital, right? You're giving them something just as good as the traditional methods that are still going to be able to withstand forces. And I mean, if they accidentally did run over it with a 26,000 pound truck, the lower denture could hold up. So if we're looking at you know, what is BAM, right? So I mentioned body activated material, kind of my favorite concept about this Lucitone digital print. And really, to understand what BAM is, we need to kind of understand what ISO high impact standards means. So to exceed that high impact standard, a material must surpass or reach 900 joules per meter square, which is a fracture resistance measurement used for, you know, full arch dentures. So if you're used to, you know, things like crown and bridge, of course, you know, things like zirconia, you're looking at megapascals flexural strength, but with a full arch case, you're looking at fracture resistance measurement. So to exceed ISO high impact standards, you have to surpass, of course, that 900 joules per meter square. So Dentsply Sirona, I mean, we've been in the denture game for over 100 years now. And so if you look at the far left-hand side there, those are our traditional methods of course, powder and liquid. And those technically exceed ISO high impact standards. Now, to the right of that, you're gonna see our Lucitone 199 denture base. So that would be for more of a milling strategy. That's on par with our traditional materials as it's just a compacted form of it. So those materials reach about 1,300 joules per meter square. So still, you know, far greatly surpassing that ISO high impact standard. But really where the magic happens is with the Lucitone digital print. So outside the mouth, the Lucitone digital print reaches 1,500 joules per meter square. So we've actually outside the mouth even surpassed our traditional materials. But again, that magic happens somewhere with BAM, body activated material. So upon reaching body temperatures of 37 degrees, the material actually doubles in fracture resistance to reach over 3,000 joules per meter square. So by adding in that fourth dimension with the body actually activating that material itself, we've actually almost created something like a 4D denture almost, right? So it's a 3D printed denture, but it almost has 4D properties because of adding in that fourth dimension. So that's a pretty phenomenal thing to think about, especially because, of course, if you're thinking about how many hours of a day a patient actually wears their denture, it's going to be, you know, mostly a body activated denture at that point, right? So, you know, again, because I mentioned that the demographic is, of course, a little bit more compromised just in the sense of their age, maybe their dexterity, things like that, accidents can definitely happen, right? So, you know, you want to be able to, you know, not necessarily have a patient who's a little bit more sad that, you know, their denture is broken because they've had a fall or they've accidentally dropped it. So, you know, the beauty of, you know, BAM is really that it's going to able to be, you know, withstanding those type of forces, right? Because again, those accidents can happen. So I pass it along to Jeff. Thank you for kind of listening to me. I'll just mute myself now until the questions and answers, and I'll let Jeff get to the good stuff of how Shaw actually implements this into their lab.
Thank you, BAM Queen. So indications for digital dentures. So complete dentures, full upper, full lower, reference dentures, which we copy an existing denture, single full arch, and immediate dentures. Again, all complete. You'll probably get the best result with a double full arch, but single arches are great. We've actually just done one recently, and the denturists loved it. So had a great result so far. And implant over denture. So we can scan a model with attachments, with analogs, and print the base, and then pick up the attachments either chair side or in the lab after it's assembled. And I will take a look at the clinical workflow. So this is for a new patient denture. So starting with the preliminary impression. So you can do either a digital impression or your traditional analog with alginate or PVS. And then you send that to the lab. The lab will fabricate the occlusal rim and send it back to the clinic. And this is probably the most important visit. And this is where all the magic happens at visit 2, where you take the bite registration and the final impression at the same time. We'll look further more in detail on that later, but with a more accurate occlusal rim, we can reduce the number of appointments needed. So once that bite registration and final impression is taken, you send it back to the lab. We scan it as one piece, and we design the try-in. Now here it says it's optional, but I do recommend doing the try-in, especially at the beginning, getting used to the workflow and the whole procedure. And it just gives that patient the option to give it a test drive. So I do recommend going with that try-in. And once the try-in is approved, we can go ahead and print the final denture and assemble the teeth and finish it and have it ready for insert. So this is your new patient denture with 4 appointments. So taking a look at the second visit with the final impression and occlusal rim. So this is just a little more detailed so we can get more accuracy and a more predictable result for that try-in. So we're going to check the initial fit of the rims, just making sure that you know, the wax is not extended and the buccal profile or the base is pretty close to what the patient has in the mouth. And then we're going to put some tray adhesive, light body, just take that final impression. And then we're going to clean up that rim. So any excess flow of material on the buccal surface, we want to clean that up because we're going to need that buccal surface to record midline, canine line, smile line, lip lines. And we want to establish a proper video and plane of occlusion. And these will all help in the design of the try-in. Just like your traditional denture, I mean, even if you give us an accurate occlusal rim for traditional denture, we can give you definitely a more predictable result for that try-in. So now registering the bite, we're gonna place index notches on the occlusal surface, put some bite registration, and just do one final check, make sure the patient closed properly, didn't protrude their jaw in any way, and just everything's lined up. And that way, we can have a more accurate scan and design of the denture. So now we'll take a look at an existing patient or existing denture for the patient. So a reference denture. Oops. Sorry about that. Here we go. So a reference denture. So if a patient has an existing denture and they want to make a new one, it's very possible we can design it to be exactly the same or with some modifications. So initially, you'd have to just take a look at the denture, make sure it's not worn out, it's not broken in any way, and all the flanges are there. So we can take that wash impression as the final impression and send that to the lab. The lab will scan it and we'll design the try-in. So again, it says optional, but again, I highly recommend taking that try-in for that test drive and then going to final. So with reference dentures, we can bring it down to 3 appointments. So components for success. So again, the adjustment of the occlusal rim is key to having minimal appointments. We need all the data we can have to give you the best result for the try-in. And as you can see in the middle photo, we need a solid impression because we use the landmarks on the digital impression to map out the setup, to choose the proper size teeth. Pretty much just like conventional, but with the software, we want to have everything there, and the software will recognize and give a great initial setup if there is a lot of detail in the impression. So anatomical landmarks. And then once we receive the final, this is our digital workflow. So we scan the final impression and bite registration. We build models off of that. So we have to invert the impression so we can have a digital model. And then we design the denture, we print the try-in, clean it up, trim and polish, send it to the clinic, they do the try-in. Once it's approved, then we print the denture base, we fuse the teeth, and we trim and polish. So here is a short video of a denture being designed. It's a reference denture we did here, the one that I mentioned actually. So here we have the digital impression, and we're building the model. So we add a base to that model. So if we have to print this model, it comes out like an actual model. We're just cleaning up any bubbles or imperfections on that model now. And here you can see we're establishing the occlusal plane. So this is a reference denture. We're copying the occlusal plane from the existing denture. And then we're mapping out the anatomical landmarks. And then we're drawing the border of where the acrylic border, or where the, resin border is going to be. So yeah, we want to open up all the frenums. And it's nice, we can zoom in and just analyze every detail and just get a nice, well-fitting denture base with the proper periphery. And then the path of insertion. So in some cases where there's extreme undercut, we're able to block out, digitally block out the model and have a proper path of insertion. So we don't have to do any grinding on the inside. You know, the software will tell us where there's undercut. And sometimes, you know, when we have a physical model, it's hard to see all the undercut and we have to adjust the base, and sometimes we adjust too much. But here digitally, we can see everything and we can block out just enough that we have retention and still have properly fitting dentures. So here we're choosing the teeth. We're copying the old ones. So we picked the set. They were a little too short, so we picked slightly longer, and it's nice because we can always throw on that bite or old denture in a translucent view and match up to what we need it to be. Here we're just adjusting the setup. So the doctor wanted the midline shifted, the bite closed, and we're able to maintain that overjet overbite. And then we're just fine tuning the setup now. So the software gave us an initial setup and we're just fine tuning it so we get proper occlusion, proper aesthetics, lip support, making sure the denture is going to be stable, that the teeth are over the ridge. And we can set teeth in like chunks, but also individually. So we can individually characterize, but also move a whole posterior unit or a whole anterior unit if we have to. So it's very powerful software. And just fine tuning the setup, making sure that the contacts are there and that the teeth are not overlapping each other. And again, we can always pull that reference denture back just to see how close we are to it. Snapping the contacts. So here we actually got a warning that we exceeded minimal thickness. So again, that's another great feature with digital is we can set parameters, and if we exceed or get too extreme, we'll get a warning and we can correct it, and we won't have any issues with the final denture. So now here's the base. And we're just doing a digital wax up, making sure there's enough material around the teeth and enough material to look like anatomy, natural anatomy. So we're able to set parameters. We can set the initial thickness of the base. We can control that. But obviously we want to follow protocols of what Carbon and Dentsply recommend for the material. So I'm just touching up the wax ups. And yeah, anytime we can also just take a screenshot and send it to the clinician so that if they want, they can have a preview before we even print it. They can take a look and approve the design well before it's printed, just to make sure it's okay. And here's the final look of that denture. Yeah, we even went ahead and played around, did some rouge on the palette there. Okay, so that's the design of the denture. Yep, so after we get approval of the try-in, then we do the print and wash. So we load the job, load the resin into the printer, we print the base. So this is what it comes out looking like on the Carbon. We clean, or we wash off the excess resin with alcohol. And then now there's a 3-step fuse for the teeth. So the teeth come in the blister pack. We place them in an etching solution. So that's fuse step 1. Fuse step 2 is we place the fuse into the pocket. And then we place the teeth into the pockets. And then we tack here the teeth onto the base. So we usually do 2 teeth at a time just to make sure they're in the right place. Tack here them, and then once all the teeth are done on that denture, we do a final sealer with fuse step 3 around the junction. And then we place it in the curing unit for the final cure. So this will cure the resin base and the fuse, and that's what creates that bond. Like everything is just final cured on the same step, and it's just one solid piece. And then we do our traditional trim and polish. So any stippling, just touch up of the borders, smoothing anything out, and pumice, high shine, and the finished product. Okay, and we'll give it back to Ali for questions and answers.
Thank you so much, Jeff and Michelle. It was great. So thanks everybody for staying with us. Actually, everybody since the beginning of the state so far. So if you have any, you're going to have a question and answer, but if you have any other question that is not answered today or you can think of, you can always email us at info@shawlabgroup. Our website is shawlabgroup.com. What I would encourage everybody is that follow us on Instagram @shawlabgroup. We will have more webinars in the future where we post. We will also post a recorded version of this webinar on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/shawlabgroup. So I repeat, youtube.com/shawlabgroup, and there will be a recording of the webinar if you want to watch it again or you want to send it to your colleagues. Now I'm just gonna get to question and answer. So I'll post the questions, read them for you, Jeff and Michelle. If you want to jump in and help with the answer, please go ahead. So the first question, how did you get an awesome technician like Jeff to create an awesome webinar? We tried a very good lab. This was an internal question. So we have another question that I'm gonna ask you guys. Hi, Jeff, we met a year ago. I have a question. Last year, I gave a 3D printed 3D denture to my patient, and he complained a lot about a palatal seal. It was very tall, and I had to reduce it almost to 0. I guess the answer is that this is a different technology, but Jeff, how would you answer that question? Eleonora asked the question.
If it was a year ago, then it was with a different digital technology. That digital denture used traditional processing methods. So it was digitally designed. The trine was digitally milled, I think. But the final process of the acrylic was still a traditional method. Here we have an all digital process, and again I said that with the resin you're not going to have material distortion. You're going to have the exact fit as your digital or as the final impression that was scanned. So the fit is going to be precise. You're not going to have material distortion, and you're going to definitely get that palatal seal comparing it to traditional PMMA.
All right. We have again another question about the recording of the webinar. It will be posted on youtube.com/ShawLab group. Dr. Aragon, pleasure having you here. So your question is, Jeff, you mentioned that in first appointment, we take impressions with a scanner intraorally. We won't have a bite at this point. Do you just need the STL files to print the denture bases and then you do the wax trims? Can you explain the process between first appointment and second? Second part of the question is that also what scanner do you use in the lab in order to scan rims and bite?
So first question with the impressions, when we receive a digital impression, we will print a model and we will make occlusal rims on that model. So it's just preliminary impression, and then the occlusal rims will be used for the final impression. I think that's, is there any more to that question, the first part?
Dr. Aragon, if the second question was also what scanner do you use at the lab in order to scan rims and bite?
I think we use the 3 shape. I don't do the scanning, but I think we use 3 shape for scanning. Yeah.
I hope that answers the question. We have a question, what software do you use, I presume, for designing?
We use 3 shape right now.
Will recording being available? I mentioned that, I mentioned the answer. Question is, can you use cold cure to reline and repair the Lucitone print material?
Yeah, so I can take this one if you want, Jeff. Yeah. So there is a validated workflow that Shaw Lab Group would have access to. When it comes to repairs, it actually is using some of those fused materials, and that is why it is required for it to actually be sent back to the laboratory for any repairs or relines, just because they've got the technology on site to, of course, be able to fully cure everything post reline and post repair. So at this point in time, no kind of in-office cold cure acrylics can be used currently. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And the $1 million question, how much is the price difference between conventional and digital dentures? I would say it's more cost effective. Please email us at info@shawlabgroup.com and we will get the details for you. Can you pink stain the monoblock trine?
You can, but that is going to cost more money with your stains or if you use composites, and a lot more time. So if you want a quicker turnaround, you know, just print, trim, polish, send it back. You can stain it. We can even put a layer of pink wax on top if you want. So it is doable. It just requires more materials and more time.
All right, we had a comment from Amanda from our Ottawa lab. Thanks, Amanda, for the comment. Aaron King, our own very own Aaron, is asking, how do you handle any changes that are required at the try-in stage?
So at the try-in stage, so actually at the try-in stage, you can grind in that bite, and if you overgrind, it's fine. We can adjust it. We can go back to the original design. And yeah, just grinding in that bite. If you have to shift the midline, just cut a line or draw it with a Sharpie. Just make adjustments on that actual try-in and send it back, and we can scan it and look at it from there. Also, if you find that that try-in for some reason doesn't fit or it's loose, do a wash impression. We can also just rescan that wash impression and redesign from there. So yeah, if you have adjustments, do whatever you need to do on that try-in and send it back. If it's something like a midline shift, you can easily just send us an email saying, shift the midline to the left 2 millimeters. Some photos of the patient wearing the try-in is also very helpful for us, just for us to see if we need to shift the midline or pick smaller teeth or close the bite or anything like that. Photos are also a great way to do adjustments.
Jeff, can we reline the digital denture?
Yes, we can.
All right. When setting the teeth, so this question, when setting the teeth, we need to set the teeth back as far as possible. Do you grind the backs per usual?
No, we don't grind the backs of the teeth. The teeth are already reduced, like Michelle said. So there's no, large neck like traditional denture teeth. There is a hollowed out pocket on that lingual surface. So it gives a lot of space for teeth setting, and we can try different molds if we find that, it's hitting the base. And if there is a case where there's just no occlusal space, then probably digital denture is not an option. You probably have to go with conventional. I mean, there are some limitations to digital right now, but they could be solved later on. But in those cases, you probably have to stick with traditional dentures.
Yeah, so what we say typically with our IPN teeth and this workflow that Shaw's working with is it's going to work for about 80% of your cases. There will be certain cases, like Jeff said, where, occlusal space could be a little bit of a challenge. Obviously, some immediates can result in something like that. So that's where some traditional methods might have to still be used. But about 80% of your cases will be able to use this new 3D printed workflow.
All right, thank you so much, Jeffrey. It was great, and we had several people behind the scene in Shaw Lab Group making this happen. Thanks to Carbon for providing this technology to us, and very, very special thank you, Michelle, and your team at Dentsply Sirona for joining us today. I wish everybody to stay safe and hope to see you soon in our next webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.